In every cold case, there comes a moment where you expect the past to speak. Newspaper headlines, police reports, call-outs, something, anything that anchors you in time. But when we went digging into Bude's archives, the silence was louder than any headline. And yet, buried in these same pages, we found stories of another woman who disappeared just a few miles away, a name printed over and over again, but not Barbara Hussey, not once. Today we're at the library going through the Cornish and Devon Post, the weekly newspaper that covered Bude, local villages and almost every corner of North Cornwall. If Barbara disappeared in 1959 or in 1966, this is where her story should appear.
Microfiche files upstairs.
Oh, upstairs?
Yeah, I phoned through last week.
Oh, okay.
I know how to use them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Two years now anchor our investigation. 1959, which fits with the legal requirement that a missing person could be declared dead after 7 years. And 1966, a year long associated with a storm, a dark walk home and Barbara's disappearance. But eyewitness memory from the time suggests Barbara may have vanished earlier than people today believe. Somewhere between the mid-1950s and 1960, which makes 1959 our most critical year to explore.
So this is actually my third time at the library, coming to look through the newspaper articles to see if I can find anything at all, any reference at all to the disappearance of Mrs. Hussey. So I've spent already 2 full days here going through various newspapers and looking by week for all the different articles that could possibly indicate that Mrs. Hussey went missing and may indicate what happened to her. Unfortunately, up until now, I've never actually found any articles related to her at all. It may be that I have been looking under the wrong year and the wrong month, although I've done about 5 full years now. But I'm going to try again. I'm going to look at 1959 specifically and 1966, because they're the 2 years that we think she could have disappeared. So this is the microfiche screen. It's really difficult to read, but I'm going to do my best, and it does take quite a long time to go through them, and if I find any interesting articles I will show you. So here we go, fingers crossed we might find some reference to Mrs. Hussey. So I'm just looking through. I mean, I can't read every article, so I'm moving about because it's really difficult to see. Oh, there's a boy that died in Sandfall. Oh dear. Now I've come on to the next page, which is weddings, some advertising, nothing jumping out at me. Now it looks like this is again more local news, but it's accidents, road closures, parachute folded after opening, so a pilot dropped to his death near Hatherley. Someone died in a crash at Polson Hill near Rockhampton. So I'm just going to continue looking, and I will let you know if I find something interesting.
We started with 1959, week by week, page by page, front covers, community sections, police reports, obituaries, nothing. Next, 1966, searching for any sign of the storm that supposedly blew across Bude the night Barbara left the house. But here too, silence. The papers didn't mention a storm at all. So, do we have the wrong year? Did the storm happen? Or has the timeline shifted in ways we don't understand yet? But then among the silent pages, a loud voice emerged. Not Barbara's, but another missing woman from 1959. Her name was Mrs. Clara Parks, aged 55, from Upton Cross. She lived alone. She was last seen by the postman. Her mail piled up by the door. The alarm was raised. 2 dogs were heard barking inside the house, one her own and one belonging to a neighbour she was caring for. And the newspapers followed her story relentlessly. A search of mine shafts, quarries and riverbanks, volunteers combing the countryside, updates printed in multiple issues across the year. She was never found, but her disappearance was documented. But for Barbara Hussey, nothing. Not a single printed word. Why? "1959 was not a quiet year in North Cornwall. The papers were full of stories of heartbreak, tragedy, accidents, human drama. A man fell to his death near Halwell. A pilot's parachute failed to open. A motorcyclist and his pillion passenger were killed at a bend after a sudden blackout. A man drowned at Trebarwith Strand while holidaymakers pulled another to safety. In one of the strangest reports, a bullock jumped onto the roof of a car, leaving its passengers stunned. a heart specialist battled for 5 hours to save a young boy on a beach. Local funerals, accidental deaths, dangerous driving court cases, community tragedies, all documented. So if all of these events made the news and another missing woman was reported multiple times, why wasn't Barbara?
So I've been through all of 1959 newspapers and I have found nothing, no reference at all to Mrs. Hussey and what might have happened to her. It is a tad disappointing, but there's not a lot else now I can do other than try to understand the reason why that might be. So the investigation continues.
To understand that, we need to step back into the world Barbara lived in. The 1950s and 60s were not kind to women who struggled at home. Domestic issues were private. Neighbours did not pry. Police did not interfere. Newspapers avoided reporting marital problems, not out of malice, but out of the social rules of the time. If a woman left home, people whispered. They didn't publicise it. And if Barbara was living in a difficult marriage, something we'll explore more later, would her disappearance have been seen as a domestic matter rather than a public one? Could shame, reputation, or even fear have kept people silent? We don't know yet, but we have to ask the question. It's been said that Leslie Hussey, Barbara's husband, was not a man to be messed with. We are not drawing conclusions, we are not making accusations, but in a time when domestic silence was the norm, the nature of a marriage could shape what was or wasn't said publicly. One of the most surprising things we discovered is just how easy it was for someone to disappear in mid-20th century Britain. There was no national database, no interlinked police system, no shared records between rural stations. Handwritten notes were filed away in small local offices and sometimes purged years later. A retired detective put it simply: adults had the right to disappear. If a woman left home, whether to escape, to start over, or because she was struggling, police often assumed she had chosen to go. People vanished quietly, sometimes by accident, sometimes by choice, sometimes for reasons no one ever learned. There is something we do know for certain. A police file on Barbara's disappearance does exist. Not a myth, not a rumour, a real case file held by the authorities. It's said to contain a substantial amount of correspondence between the local Bude Police and the Metropolitan Police, who, at the time, handled certain categories of missing person investigations. To this day, that file remains confidential. We are not permitted to see what it contains. We don't know what was written, what was asked, or what replies came back. We only know that letters were sent and that Bude officers had to keep the Met updated, which means Barbara's disappearance was formally acknowledged. But without access to the contents of that file, we are left with an intriguing imbalance. The official record exists behind closed doors, yet nothing about Barbara ever appeared in the newspapers of the time. And that contrast, a documented case with no public trace, raises even more questions about what really happened. In the United Kingdom, a missing person could be declared legally dead after 7 years if no evidence of life was found. If Barbara disappeared in 1959, the registration of her death later that decade fits that timeline. But when we requested a death certificate from the GRO, which is the General Register Office, who are responsible for the registration of vital events such as births, deaths and marriages, the reply came back, no trace. So even the official paper trail is incomplete. So we are left with the haunting question: why is there no record of Barbara Hussey's disappearance? No article, no appeal, no mention, not even in passing. Was the year wrong? Was she assumed to have left by choice? Did her family ask for privacy? Was the disappearance dismissed as a domestic matter? Were the police files lost? Or was something more unusual happening? Something that never made it to print? A woman vanished, and the papers, the place where every story should live, say nothing. And until we understand why, we're not just searching the archives, we're searching the silence.